Okay, so now that we can successfully run our game, and our game will have our character not only move, but can crash, just like that, we can have the game just run like here and then stop like this, but that gets kind of boring, right? We might like to be able to restart our game without having to click out and re-click again to just to restart our game. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that when the object of our player hits any other object that is a barrier, we're going to make it so that it restarts the player cube all the way back at the beginning. So in order to do this, we're going to take a look at our player cube. This is where he likes to start. Current position is about 1.8 up in the y direction, but 0, 0 in the x and z. So what we have to do is have some way of telling Unity where our start position is. The easiest way to do that, other than writing down and remembering a bunch of these things, is to set a empty object. An object that doesn't really contain anything, but just kind of sits where this cube is. So I'm going to go up into Game Objects and create empty. There's our empty game object. Because this is going to be the start point, I'm going to call it start position. And we can see that the start position is already at 1.87 and then 0, 0. So it's the same place. The rotation is 0, 0, 0, which is the same as what the player cube is, and the scale is 1, 1, 1. So now that Unity has a reference for where our player likes to start, now we have to code him to be able to go back after it crashes to set its position to that starting point or starting position. So let's go in the code. We already have some code that will tell us when the player crashes on collision enter. So when the player hits something, it will debug out the collider name. Cool. So if all we want to do is every single time that the player hits something, it will go back to its starting section, right? Its starting position. So seems pretty easy. We already know how that we have a player, right? So we have the player dot we know that its left and right in up and down position are in the transform, and then its position. So player, its transform area, and then its position. We want to set that equal to something. We don't have anything yet to set it equal to. So we need to reference in that start position from our empty that we just created. So if we go back into Unity, we have our start position. And remember before, the way that we passed information into our script was by making a public variable, right? So we had to pass in who the player is by making a public variable of type rigid body. So let's try this in here. This is in I just said game object start position. So what we'll want to do is go up into our script up here where we can put in our public variables. We're going to say public, and we don't need it to be a rigid body. because we don't want it to have physics, so we don't want to mess with the physics of the start position. We just want to get its object parameters, the things that tell us where it is in space. So we actually have a special type called GameObject. And then we'll name that start position. So we save that, Control S, go back into here, into our player cube, give it a second to update. So because we don't have anything to give this at the moment, what we're going to do is delete that. Go up here, type in public, type in public game object is the type that we're looking for, because we don't need to affect any of the gravity or anything like that that a rigid body would give us. We just want to get the general properties that the object within our game has, like its position. And then we'll name that, let's say, start position. Cool. So I'm going to save that. We can go into here, and then there's our start position. Simply go in, click on start position, and then find start position. And there it is, right inside there. Cool. So now we can go back into our code and finish coding. So on collision enter, player, and then we're looking to move the player. So we're looking to transform the player. Just a fancy math term for move. Transform its position to, so we're going to make it equal. Our variable name again is start position. There's start position dot transform dot position. All right, let's see what happens. Save that. Hit play. That didn't seem to work. Definitely noticed it hit things. So let's go back into it. See if we can run it again. See what happens. Boop. It looks like it keeps going back to the same spot, but every time it's speeding up. I wonder how many things it hits. Ooh, it hits a lot of things. Oh, it's hitting the floor. the floor, the floor, the floor, the floor. As it's going, it seems to keep hitting the floor, keeps restarting, but eventually it starts moving really fast. So I think the velocity of this cube, how fast it moves, is still accelerating over time, but I think it is also every single time it hits the floor or anything else, it starts at the same area. And it'll keep doing that until the cube is moving fast enough that it can escape without actually touching anything. So if our problem is that every single time this thing collides with the floor, which it does almost immediately, it bounces back up. But in our update, we're adding forward force every single time. So it's going boop, 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 and continuously moving forward faster and faster and faster until it just misses the entire thing. So what we have to do is filter it out so that the floor doesn't count. It only will reset if it hits one of these barriers.